It starts like a standard cave exploration. A small team enters a narrow, erosional cave system, expecting a routine underground route with tight passages and natural rock formations. The entrance is already difficult. Sharp rock edges scrape against their gear as they squeeze through the opening one by one. At first, everything feels manageable. The cave is dry in some sections, damp in others, but nothing unusual for experienced explorers. They move deeper. The passages begin to open slightly, forming uneven chambers carved by water over thousands of years. Sediment lines on the walls show how far floodwater has risen in the past. But at this point, there's no active water movement. That changes quickly. As they descend further, they begin noticing something subtle at first. Wet sand underfoot, then shallow water pooling in low sections of the cave floor. No one turns back yet. They assume it's normal groundwater seepage. But the deeper they go, the faster it escalates. The water level begins to rise, first ankle deep, then moving faster through the narrow channels connecting each chamber. What was once stable ground starts turning into a flowing system. The team realizes something critical. Rainfall outside is feeding directly into the cave system. And now the entire underground structure is acting like a funnel. They try to retreat. But the same passages they entered through are now partially flooded, forcing them to move faster and more carefully through narrowing spaces where water is actively pushing against them. Every section becomes harder to pass. Loose rocks shift under pressure. Small debris begins falling from above as water destabilizes the cave ceiling. The team reaches a point where they must choose between two routes, one familiar, one unknown, both already affected by rising water. They push forward, trying to outrun the flooding system forming behind them. Breathing becomes heavier, movement more urgent. What was supposed to be a controlled exploration has now turned into a race against a collapsing underground environment. And the worst part is clear. The cave is no longer just a path. It's becoming a trap that is actively filling behind them. And as they struggle toward higher ground, they realize something even more concerning is coming next. Before we start the next chapter, please subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Once we reach 1,000 subscribers, we can make part 2 of this video. Your support means a lot. After escaping the rising floodwater in the previous cave system, the next expedition takes a completely different direction. Deeper, vertical, and far more unstable. This time, the team arrives at a pit cave entrance. There's no wide opening, no horizontal passage to walk through. Just a narrow drop that disappears straight into darkness. From the surface, it already feels wrong. The edges of the pit are unstable, layered with loose rock and crumbling sediment. Every movement near the rim causes small debris to fall into the void below, echoing for seconds before disappearing completely. They secure their ropes and begin the descent. Slowly, carefully. The first section goes smoothly, but the moment they pass the initial drop, the environment changes completely. The walls become tighter, more uneven, and the air feels colder the deeper they go. Midway down, the team notices something unexpected. The cave doesn't have a clear bottom. Instead, it splits. Multiple vertical drops branch off in different directions, creating a layered underground structure that looks far deeper than the entrance suggested. Then comes the first real warning. A loose rock dislodges from above. It falls without warning, and the echo doesn't fade quickly. It continues longer than expected, suggesting a massive open space below them. They realize the cave is not a single drop. It's a system of stacked vertical chambers. As they descend further, the rock formations become more unstable. Some sections look freshly broken, as if parts of the cave have collapsed recently. The team pauses to reassess. That's when they notice something else, faint movement of debris that seems to shift even when no one is touching it. Small rocks sliding downward on their own, pulled by unseen airflow or unstable structure changes. The deeper they go, the more uncertain the cave becomes. Every rope movement feels heavier. Every descent feels like it could trigger another collapse above them. At one point, they realize something critical. Getting down is no longer the hard part. Getting back up through multiple unstable levels will be the real challenge. But despite the danger, they continue downward, trying to reach what they believe is the true base of the system. What they don't realize yet is that the cave isn't just deep, it's connected. And in the next exploration, that connection becomes far more obvious. When water, tunnels, and hidden passages turn an already dangerous environment into something far more unpredictable. After the vertical pit cave system, the exploration shifts again, this time into a completely different environment. A river cave. Instead of dry rock and vertical drops, the team now enters a tunnel system carved directly by moving water. The entrance is wider, but the warning signs appear almost immediately. The air is colder. The sound of running water is constant. And the deeper they go, the more unstable the environment becomes. At first, the cave is only partially flooded. Shallow water flows along the floor, guiding them through a natural corridor that twists and bends without clear structure. But unlike previous caves, this one is not static. It moves. The water level changes between sections. Some areas are calm, while others suddenly narrow and accelerate the current. As they continue, they begin encountering unexpected floating sections, areas where the cave floor disappears under deeper water, forcing them to wade, swim, or carefully balance on unstable rock formations. Navigation becomes increasingly difficult. Visibility drops in certain chambers, where reflections from the water distort depth perception. It becomes harder to tell where the passage continues and where it ends. Then they notice markings on the cave walls, faint indicators suggesting previous explorers used this system before them. Some arrows point forward, others appear faded or partially washed away. They begin following the markings, but the system feels inconsistent. At times, the arrows lead into wider chambers filled with calm water. Other times, they point toward narrow choke points where the current becomes noticeably stronger. Then the cave begins reacting to conditions outside. Water flow increases without warning in certain sections, suggesting rainfall or upstream pressure is feeding directly into the system. This forces the team to move faster, but speed comes at a cost. Mistakes become more dangerous in confined, flooded passages where a single wrong step could push someone into deeper, unseen channels. At one point, they realize the system is not just a river cave, it's a branching network. Multiple tunnels, multiple levels, all connected by unpredictable water flow that can change direction and intensity without warning. And as they push further into the system, they start to understand something unsettling. This cave doesn't just contain water, it is controlled by it. And the deeper they go, the more unstable everything becomes, leading into the next environment, where even the air itself becomes unreliable. The next exploration takes the team into something even more deceptive. A restricted, low-oxygen tunnel network where the danger is no longer just water or structure, but the air itself. At the entrance, everything looks manageable. A narrow passage carved through rock, partially submerged in shallow water. The team assumes it will be another tight but passable section, similar to what they've already faced. But within minutes of entering, something feels off. The air becomes noticeably heavier. Breathing starts to require more effort, even while standing still. The space is so tight that they're forced into unnatural positions, crouching low, tilting their heads sideways just to move forward through the passage. Then they notice the readings. An oxygen meter begins fluctuating. At first, it seems like a malfunction. The numbers jump inconsistently, briefly dropping before returning to normal. But the pattern continues, and it gets worse deeper in. The cave begins narrowing again, forcing them closer to the waterline, where head position becomes critical just to maintain airflow. In some sections, they are forced to keep their mouths barely above the surface while moving forward. Visibility drops further as condensation and murky water reflections distort the tunnel ahead. Communication becomes harder. The group starts relying on short signals instead of full coordination, because even speaking too long feels physically draining in the confined space. Then the real concern hits. The oxygen readings drop sharply, not gradually, but in sudden shifts that suggest the environment is changing faster than expected. They begin to suspect that parts of the cave are sealed pockets with limited airflow, possibly trapped sections where fresh oxygen does not circulate properly. The deeper they go, the more unpredictable it becomes. Some sections feel slightly open again, giving brief relief. Others compress instantly, forcing them into full crawling positions, where even breathing feels restricted. At this point, the focus shifts from exploration to survival awareness. Every movement is calculated. Every pause feels dangerous. And what makes it worse is the realization that turning back is no longer simple. Because the same narrow, low-oxygen passages they entered through are now just as difficult to navigate in reverse. They push forward, looking for any sign of a wider exit or airflow source. But instead of relief, the system becomes even more claustrophobic, leading them toward a new section where physical space itself becomes the main threat, and where squeezing through rock formations starts to feel like the cave is actively resisting their movement. After the oxygen-restricted tunnel system, the expedition shifts into one of the most physically demanding environments yet, a lava tube cave used for mapping and geological documentation. Unlike previous caves shaped by water, this system is carved through hardened volcanic rock. The structure is jagged, unstable in places, and filled with narrow, irregular passages that force the team to constantly adjust their movement. The purpose of this mission is not just exploration, it's mapping. They need to document every branch, every squeeze point, and every potential connection inside the system. But almost immediately, it becomes clear that this cave is far more restrictive than expected. The first major challenge comes in the form of tight squeezes. Passages narrow to the point where full body movement becomes impossible. The team is forced to push forward inch by inch, using their bodies to slowly slide through sections where the ceiling presses down against their backs and shoulders. To make movement easier, they use makeshift protective layers and support materials to reduce friction against sharp rock edges. Even then, every movement scrapes against the cave walls. At one point, a member becomes physically stuck in one of the narrowest sections. The passage is so tight that forward motion stops completely. For a moment, the entire exploration freezes. The team is forced to carefully reposition, pulling and adjusting from behind until the person can slowly be freed from the restriction. It becomes a controlled extraction rather than a simple movement. Once freed, they continue, but the tone of the exploration changes. The cave is no longer just difficult. It feels like it is actively narrowing in multiple sections, forcing them to constantly reassess whether each passage is safe to enter. Deeper inside, the system opens briefly into larger chambers, but these are followed by even tighter corridors, creating a pattern of relief and restriction that repeats unpredictably. The mapping process continues despite the difficulty, but the physical strain becomes obvious. Every section requires negotiation. Every turn requires evaluation. Nothing is straightforward, and as they push further into the lava tube system, they begin to understand something important. This cave is not just a single passage to be mapped. It is a complex, looping system that can easily trap anyone who misjudges its structure. After the claustrophobic lava tube mapping mission, the exploration shifts into something that immediately feels different. Not because of the structure of the cave, but because of what is already inside it. This cave is older, less documented, and far less frequently visited. From the entrance alone, it's clear that very few people have made it this deep before. The passages are uneven, partially collapsed in places, and covered in layers of sediment that suggest long periods of inactivity. But as the team moves deeper, the environment begins to change in a way that has nothing to do with geology. They start noticing objects. At first, it's small fragments, broken debris, scattered material, things that could easily be explained as natural or carried in by water. But then they find something more structured, bones. Not just a single fragment, but multiple scattered remains across different sections of the cave floor. Some appear weathered and old, others more recent, suggesting different timelines of presence inside the system. The mood changes immediately. This is no longer just exploration, it becomes observation. Then they find something even more unsettling. A small object that does not belong in a natural cave environment. A child-sized shoe, partially buried in sediment near a narrow passage. There is no clear explanation for how it got there or how long it has been in that location. The deeper they go, the more inconsistent the evidence becomes. Some sections show signs of water flow that could have carried objects in from elsewhere. Other areas are completely sealed, making it unclear how anything could have entered or exited. The team begins documenting everything more carefully, realizing this cave may have served as a natural collection point over time, or something far more complex that is not immediately visible. But there is one detail that stands out above everything else. The remains are not concentrated in one area. They are spread out, as if different things ended up here at different times, under different conditions, without any single clear explanation. And that creates a new problem, because if this cave is not just a natural formation, then it may have been used, and whatever entered it before might still be connected to deeper sections of the system that have not yet been fully explored, which leads directly into the final and most dangerous environment, a massive cave network where even the air, ground, and structure itself begin to show signs of instability and contamination. After discovering bones and unknown remains in the deeper cave sections, the final expedition pushes into the largest and most unstable system yet, a massive underground network located beneath an area flagged for potential gas exposure. From the moment they enter, the atmosphere feels different. The air is heavier. There's a faint smell that doesn't belong in a natural cave environment, and it becomes more noticeable the deeper they go. This is no longer just a geological system. It's an environment with external contamination risk. Early into the exploration, they pass warning signs left behind by previous teams. Some areas are marked with caution tape, survey tags, and directional indicators that suggest the cave has been partially explored but never fully secured. Despite the warnings, they continue forward. The structure opens into enormous chambers, far larger than anything seen in previous sections. Ceilings stretch high above their headlamps, and entire sections of the cave disappear into darkness beyond visible range. But the instability becomes obvious quickly. Loose rock formations hang overhead in certain areas, and parts of the ceiling appear fractured, suggesting potential collapse zones if disturbed. Then they reach the critical point, areas where gas exposure becomes a real concern. The team begins monitoring air quality more closely. Some sections show abnormal readings, reinforcing the idea that gas may be leaking into parts of the system from nearby underground sources. Movement becomes more controlled. Every step is calculated to avoid triggering rock shifts or disturbing unstable pockets of air. At one point, they enter a chamber so large it feels almost unnatural, like a void carved out beneath the earth. Echoes behave strangely here, bouncing unpredictably off distant walls that cannot be seen clearly. Then, deeper inside, they encounter flooded passages mixed with unstable rock corridors, forcing them to alternate between swimming, climbing, and crawling through collapsing routes. Despite the danger, the team continues mapping, trying to understand the full scale of the system. But the deeper truth becomes clear. This is not just a cave. It is a layered underground network where gas pockets, flooding systems, and structural collapse zones all overlap, creating an environment where conditions can change without warning. And as they prepare to exit, one final realization sets in. They never explored the entire system, only the parts that were still safe enough to reach. And whatever remains deeper inside is still unmapped, untouched, and completely unknown.